Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, the independent pollster who's been going to bed at 2 a.m. every morning and stress eating because we're trying to chew through a massive slate of 12 state polls, more than we've ever done at any one point in time. I know a lot of people have been missing these updates. Sorry, complicated business, folks, but we're going to try and catch up on the state of the race today and buzz through as many of these states as I can. So far, 7 of them have been complete, and we're not going to have the time to go into every single number in the crosstabs, but because these are sponsored polls, you can get them at our site, rasmussenreports.com, as well, and take a look. And I'm going to point out a couple of numbers that I think are really important, but there's a lot more packed in there, so I'd appreciate the backup. Go get them. And so far, only 4 of them have been published. I think another 3 are coming today. Hopefully, we'll clear the decks tomorrow with the rest of the 5, but we'll see. That might be a little ambitious because what I'd really like to do is put our final call out tomorrow or Friday because really, I mean, half the country's already voted. So hold on to the end if you want to catch up on the state of the national race. But before we do that, these polls are available for you to download because they're sponsored by the legendary conservative blog American Thinker. They really stepped up this cycle and helped us poll more than we ever have before. They sponsored our September set and our early October set. And they've really been instrumental in helping us fight the disgusting mainstream pollster misinformation that's been out there because time and time again, we've seen, just like the last 2 cycles, there are a couple of the usual suspects that are putting out polls that just basically shill for Democrats. So what I would really like is for you to go to this website right now, find this little envelope icon, sign up for their daily newsletter. I think you're really going to appreciate it. We and they would as well, and maybe give them a follow on Twitter while you're at it. I would really appreciate it. But let's get into the state polls. We'll start in Virginia because I think it's one of the more interesting ones. This is 1,000 likely voters. This was sampled at the tail end of last week. A lot of these went over the weekend as well. And again, tough to get them all out so fast. But what I want to point out too is that these were all weighted to the 2020 recalled vote, something a lot of pollsters are doing this cycle, but very prominent ones like New York Times, Siena are not, in my opinion, to the detriment of their accuracy. But a quick highlight for those of you who don't know what that means is that we asked people who they voted for in 2020 and then weight it to force the sample to roughly match those results. Because if you don't do that, in my data, Trump voters overwhelm the signal because Trump is getting more people than just Republicans. He's picking up a lot of crossover Democrats and independents. And so I think this is a very important step in order to maintain accuracy, but also acknowledge it's a very heavy sandbag for Trump in my data because, like I said, and unlike the New York Times, I got a lot of Trump supporters. They are not shy in Rasmussen Report polls. Here's some other data, too, we added. I don't know. People can go and look and back me up and see what you make of this. But I have whether people voted Clinton-Biden, whether they voted Trump-Trump, whether they're switch hitters or others. And people can go look at that data and make of it what you will. But again, the economy is the number one issue in Virginia, 31%, followed by border security, 19%, for a combined total of 50%. And the number one issue for Virginia Democrats is the economy, although it is followed by abortion at 22%. And independents in Virginia really don't care about abortion that much. It's 43% border security in the economy. So that's an important finding because Harris really needs those people. And abortion, obviously, is one of their strong pet issues. But which is the most important one for the next president to solve? And rising prices and illegal immigration win for a combined total of 57%. But protecting our democracy comes in third at 23%, driven again, just like the last state polls, by MSNBC viewers who say that that's the most important issue by 45%. Insane. But here's the really important stuff. And we asked, because it's so close to election day, thinking of the presidential election, how do you plan to vote this year? And half of Virginia voters say in person on election day, but roughly another half of them say early in person and vote by mail. So hold on to those numbers. They're going to be more useful later. 47% of Democrats say in person on election day, but 51% of Republicans. So Republicans should be outperforming on election day. And if the independents break Republican on election day as well, that's a problem for Democrats. Although a lot of Republicans say they're going to vote early in person more than Democrats, that might be why you're seeing such incredible early vote returns for Republicans, but Democrats lead in the vote by mail 23% to only 10%. When do you plan to vote this year? Kind of a similar question, but a little bit different. 33% say they already voted. And again, this is as of like the 24th and 25th. I suspect that this number is probably up closer to 40% now. 11% say this week, and 14% say next week or up to election day, which would be this week. And so you add that all up, and it says that 60% of roughly Virginia voters are going to have voted leading into election day. Now, there's a little bit of a disparity between the 49% who say they plan to vote in person on election day in this question and the 40% who say it here, but also acknowledge that the order of these results and how they were asked and the fact that the questions are different drive some of that difference. The real answer is probably somewhere in the middle. The generic ballot is tied in Virginia, and it is tied among independents. Senatorial candidate Hung Cao is down 11 points on Tim Kaine. Now, I do think he should do better than that. A lot of people answering polls right now don't even know what party they are. And I think the straight ticket effect is going to benefit him, but this looks too far. And here is the headline number. Trump is down only 2 points now in Virginia, closing the race a point from the last time we sampled. I expected to see more rightward movement, and now this is well within the margin of error. And I've been saying this entire cycle that even in my polling, there are many reasons why Trump may outperform the polls, and I think the early vote returns are showing that that might be what's happening here. But also notice that independents in Virginia are breaking Harris by 6 points. And again, I'm not sure if that's accurate because across the country, independents have been breaking right hard. So this is an important place to look. And also what we may see in reality is that Democrats on the phones, is that Democrats answering polls overestimate how likely they are to vote. I think there might be demoralization in the Democrat ranks that suppress turnouts, especially in minority populations that have traditionally voted Democrat, that again won't show up in the polls but may be affected on election day. But let's go out to the questions about how people vote, because this is, I think, the most important thing for people who want Trump to win to look at. People who say they're voting in person on election day in Virginia say they're going to go Trump by 7 points. The early in-person vote actually says they've been leaning Harris by 4. And vote by mail has been going massively to Democrats. So that's incredible. What that means is that even though we've seen massive turnout in Republican areas, even though we've seen a registration advantage in the swing states, in Virginia, Democrats have been voting more than Republicans have early, and Republicans still have a lot of gas in the tank. There's a lot of narratives going on right now that Republicans are cannibalizing their in-person election day vote. And that may be true, but according to these numbers, not true enough for Democrats. And look at this. When do you plan to vote this year? People who say they already voted have gone Harris 59% to 38%. So again, one more confirmation that Republicans, in my opinion, and as these numbers show, have a lot of gas in the tank. So we're just going to hit the highlights here. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Only 39% of Virginia voters say yes. Only 20% say today's children will be better off than their parents. Very similar to the questions we asked in the other state polls, but here's an interesting one that's new. When considering legal immigration into the United States, which is closer to your thinking that we need to increase, decrease, temporarily cut off, or keep about the same the level of legal immigration? And only 13% of voters in Virginia say increase, 33% say decrease, and 20% of them say completely cut it off. So that's 53% of people in Virginia who want to decrease the level of legal immigration, and 37% of Democrats, but 77% of Republicans, and 46% of independents. I thought this was interesting, though. You'd think, the MSNBC viewers would want to be absolutely overwhelmed with legal immigration, but 39% of them want a lower level, and only 16% of them say increase. This is like luxury beliefs. It's very easy for them to believe an invasion of the southern border is great for everybody as long as it doesn't impact them. That's fascinating. So I think it's a good question, and you can go out in the crosstabs too and see how people respond by ideology, news cable channel, religion, income, education. There's a lot of stuff, like I said, in these crosstabs. But how accurate is it to describe the current situation with migrants at the border with Mexico as an invasion of the United States? And a stunning 32% of voters in Virginia say very accurate. A combined total of 54% say accurate. Only 20% say not at all accurate, and 35% of Democrats say accurate. So they do not think that this is an invasion, but 76% of Republicans and a majority, 50% of independents do. And is it a function of their cable channels? Yeah. Only 9% of MSNBC viewers think it's very accurate to call the border situation an invasion, but 58% and 71% of Fox News and Newsmax viewers do. The cable news situation is really disgusting look at how divided things are in the country, how politically divisive our media consumption has become. Do you support or oppose using the armed forces or National Guard to stop the flow of illegal immigration at the U.S. southern border? Militarizing the border, 59% of Virginia voters agree with that, 36% strongly support it. Only 20% strongly oppose it, and only 52% of Democrats oppose it, but 41% of Democrats support it, as do 81% of Republicans and 54% of independents. Let's just look quick by who people say that they're going to vote for. Even Harris supporters, 35% of them at least somewhat support militarizing the border, but it's 86% of Trump supporters. Wow. Who is the most to blame for the millions of illegal immigrants that have come to the United States? Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, Harris, somebody else, or none of them? And this is also an experimental question. You can look at the crosstabs and see what you think about this. If you find anything interesting, you want signal boosted, follow me at Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter. Shoot me a DM and I will put it out there. But 27% of voters in Virginia say Biden, but 15% say Trump, and only 10% say Harris. But a combined total of 37% say Biden or Harris. And if you add Obama, that brings you up to 49%. And only 20% are blaming Republicans here. Interesting. How important is it to prevent cheating in elections? 80% of Virginia voters say very important. But this is fascinating. Democrats say it's very important too, but only 70% of them. That compares to 86% and 85% of Republicans and independents. Weird. Why do they think it's less important than Republicans and independents? How likely is it that wider use of mail-in voting will lead to more cheating in elections? And 53% think it's at least somewhat likely. Not a lot of confidence in elections. Only 20% say it's not at all likely. And 35% of Democrats think it's at least somewhat likely, as do 55% of independents. When it comes to determining who won an election, which is closer to your thinking, the votes should all be counted on election day, or that it's okay for election counts to take more than a day. And counted on election day wins 52% to 40%, driven overwhelmingly by Republicans. 72% say counted on election day, but a plurality of independents agree, 48% to 40%. Now, there's a couple other election integrity questions. Would you prefer electronic voting machines, paper ballots? It's roughly split. Do electronic voting machines make it easier or harder to cheat? 35% of plurality say easier, 26% say harder, but there was a pretty big not sure signal. Should every state require that ballots be available immediately after elections for bipartisan voter reviews to enhance election confidence and transparency? 57%, an overwhelmingly strong majority, say yes. Only 15% say no, but only 51% of Democrats agree with these audits, but it's 67% of Republicans. Interesting. Generally speaking, when it comes to abortion, are you pro-choice or pro-life? Pro-choice wins 61% to 25%, but Republicans go pro-life 64% to 26% in Virginia. Independents are overwhelmingly pro-choice here. They also overwhelmingly say that Harris is trusted more on the issue of abortion, 52% to 40%. But again, abortion wasn't that big of an issue here in Virginia. And even though they say overwhelmingly that they're pro-choice, Only 18% of voters in Virginia agree with abortions after 6 months, and only 28%, rounds down to 27, think that abortion should be legal after 3 months. That's pretty incredible. Although 43% of Democrats think abortion should be legal after 3 months, only 12% of Republicans and 27% of independents agree with them. So even though abortion is a pretty big issue, and Virginia is pretty pro choice compared to pro life, really, if you look at people who say it should be flat out illegal, legal only up to 1 month, or legal only up to 3 months, that's 63%. 63% of voters in Virginia favor strong limitations on abortion. Which candidate for president is the most competent? Actually, Harris wins here. Crazy. Which candidate represents a greater threat to democracy? Trump wins here. Crazy. But again, Trump is only down by 2 in this state. So that's a pretty representative look at what is in these crosstabs, but the value is always in the demographic numbers. So again, I can't stress how much I would love people to go get these themselves, download them and look at them. But now I'm going to just rush through the rest of the states here and look at the top line numbers. This is Texas, done about the same time as Virginia. Republicans are up 8 in the generic ballot. Ted Cruz is beating Colin Allred by 4 points. That race has been really tight in the polls, but I think it's because of Democrat shill polls. And Trump is winning by 6 points here. Listen, I think I got a left-leaning sample. I think Trump is going to do better than this. But it is what it is. I put the number out at Trump plus 6. Here's a stunner, though. New Hampshire. And what's really stunning is that I was actually able to get 900 samples there. But in New Hampshire, you're going to love this one. Donald Trump is only down by 1 point. 48% to 47%, well within the margin of error, basically a statistical tie. The governor race there is a tie, and Republicans, despite all that, are down 5 points on the generic ballot. That's a pretty incredible finding. There is a very high likelihood, in my opinion, because I think Trump is going to outperform my polls, that New Hampshire is a Republican pickup on Election Day, as well as I think Virginia. That would really do a lot to help cut my live appearance on election night short. I do not want to be staying up till 3 a.m. But here's Georgia, and I think you're going to like this one as well. Republicans are only up 1 point in the generic ballot. Fascinating. But Trump is up 6. This is a massive shift to the right in our polling. Maybe it's an outlier to the right, but I think it makes sense. And listen, I thought it was too big. I went and tried and tweaked it. I looked at all different ways of weighting this thing. And this 6 point lead for Trump would just not go away. Sometimes it happens. I mean, that's what the poll said, and I published it. And maybe he's not going to win by that much. But I think Georgia is off the table for the Democrats. New Mexico, you're going to like this one as well. A very tough state to poll, I will say. The last time we polled it, we had Harris up 6 points. But this time, we have Harris only up 5, so another point to the right. This didn't take into account any early voting turnout or registration advantage. It's roughly weighted kind of like 2020, and Democrat turnout is down across the board. It's really possible that Trump gets close in this state as well. Do I think he's going to win New Mexico? No, probably not. Minnesota, almost 1,000 results. Last time we had Trump down 3. This time we have Republicans. This can't be right. Republicans up 1 in the generic ballot. Listen, sometimes you see crazy things in the polls. Royce White's down 11 points. This is kind of like Virginia. I don't think he's really down that much, but I don't think he's close enough also to win this one. But again, we have Trump down 3 here, so not a lot of movement, but this is basically exactly 3 points, maybe a smidge on the 2.8, 2.9 side. And finally, Arizona. We've shown Arizona going strongly for Trump in the past, but it's been a lot tighter the last couple of times out. This one's the same general pattern. We got a sample here that votes Republican, but is a little less Trump supporting. That actually might be an artifact of the online panels, to be honest with you. I do think we're going to see more normalized results, but Republicans are up 4 in the generic ballot. Carrie Lake is down 4. The tightest we've shown her this year is down 2. I don't think she's doing that bad. I think she's actually kind of close. Trump is up 2. I think Trump is going to outperform this. I think it's really going to be more of like a Trump plus 4. That might put Carrie Lake close enough to pick this up, but I don't know. This is really one of the big question marks here. Understand what's going on in that race. So we'll look at this quick to recap. This is all of the state polling this year. Like I said, Arizona has just been weird. It was like Trump plus 9 against Biden, but for some reason, Harris really tightened up Arizona, and it's been steady there. Based on the way that all the other states moved, I really do think it should be a Trump plus 3 or 4, but it is what it is. Georgia almost like reverting to as Trumpy as it was back against Biden. I do think this is an outlier, but the last time we had Georgia, it was Trump plus 3. I really think we'll see a Trump plus 4 or 5. Michigan, hey, I still got to do that tonight. We'll see, but it was Harris plus 1 in September, then a tie. Maybe we'll see a Trump plus 1. Minnesota, flat at Harris plus 3. Nevada, I have not yet finished. It's actually still in the field, trying to get more data. Here is New Mexico tightening a point. North Carolina, we're actually in the field with that too. Not sure what this one will come out as. It could be tight, Trump plus 2. Maybe we'll see a lot more movement like Georgia, and it'll be up more. And of course, Pennsylvania is a big one. I'm also doing that today. And Virginia moved a point to the right. So here, screenshot this if you want to pass it around. But let's get on to the race. Here is the national polling aggregate, and Trump, since the last time I put a video out, Trump has taken the lead, which is something he's never done at this point. And I will say that the polls 8 years ago actually showed Clinton up only 1.7 points. But if you look at what happened there, I mean, there was this weird oscillation with new polls coming in and other polls dropping off. Directionally, what you want to look at is Hillary Clinton was right about 48, maybe 47 and a half here. And Trump, draw a line through this, Trump was at 43 and a half. So Hillary Clinton was about, on average, up 4 points. Harris has been about, on average, 0. So Trump is doing 4 points better in the polls than Hillary Clinton did 8 years ago. And I still think there are polls out there that are too far to the left. Morning Consult plus 3. But Reuters Ipsos was one of the ones. Like, this is why I've been railing on these people this whole cycle as shilling for Democrats. Look, we got Trump plus 2. Atlas Intel, really good. They got Trump plus 2. They actually moved back to the left to get to where we're at. Wall Street Journal, Forbes Harris X, CNBC, Fox News all agree with Trump winning the national popular vote. Almost everybody else here has Harris plus 1 or a tie. I mean, the polling industry always misses to the left with Trump on the ballot. I really think we're going to see a Trump national popular vote win. And if we weren't, you would not see things like this stunning pile of garbage. Reuters Ipsos had Trump beating Biden in the beginning of July, Trump plus 1. Then it was a tie. Then it was Harris up. Oh, the stunning and brave anointment. All of a sudden, Harris immediately leads. They got all the way to Harris plus 6. This poll was cherry-picked all over mainstream media, showing she had momentum. She was the favorite. She was winning. And then look what happened. They're right back. They're right. I bet you their final call is going to be tie. Disgusting. They are not the only ones to do that. Everybody's moving back to the right. Everybody's, look, here, boom, Trump got hit with a sandbag. You see that red line jump down? I've been putting out daily numbers since then. I did not see that. And then look, just 2 weeks ago, they totally picked that slack back up. It's like you could draw a line from here to here, and that's what Trump actually did. And I don't think this garbage jump here happened in my numbers either. And, oh, look, they backed it out. That's the Democrat shill effect. That's the pollsters lying to make it look like Harris is winning. But for some reason this cycle, maybe it's because of us, Maybe it's because the betting markets or the statistical modelers. I don't know. I don't want to take too much credit. They decided to save their credibility a little bit sooner than normal because in most of the previous cycles, actually kind of Trump surged at the end. So we still might see that. And then there's still the whole aspect of Democrat demoralization might fuel lower turnout for them. Really stunning. But here are the battlegrounds. And actually, they're not all red again. We'll take a look at Michigan. But, I have Arizona at Trump +2, the aggregate. Look, I'm left of the aggregate. The aggregate has Trump winning by 2.5. It like everybody's red. I think Marist has done really well in Arizona in the past. I think that Arizona is a pretty good Trump win. I think he outperforms the polling because of what we've seen happen with the turnout. Nevada, Trump plus 0.5. Not sure. We had Trump +2 last time. We'll put a new number in there. Trafalgar's got it at tie. But again, all the news coming out of Nevada is that there's now a Republican firewall. The Democrats have no hope of catching up. Really horrifying for them. Wisconsin, look, every single one of these is tied or red. I had it at +2. I think I'm going to see a +2 or a +3. Let's look at, okay, so look, Harris is up a half a point. But there's this garbage 400 likely voter Susquehanna number in here at Harris +5, dragging that aggregate to the left. And Quinnipiac is about as accurate as a man on the street interview. I would outright discount these. And of course, Bloomberg is morning compost. I really think those are garbage. Look at everybody else here that knows what they're doing. And again, we only had Michigan at a tie, but I think we're going to see rightward movement. I think we're going to see. So this is the one that, in my opinion, is most likely to go Harris. But I think Trump's got a better than 50-50 shot, especially considering that all of the polling perennially leans left when Trump's on the ballot. Pennsylvania, all the recent polling looks really good. Atlas Intel's got Trump +3. I think we're probably going to put out a Trump +2, 3, or 4. And again, it's Bloomberg Morning Consult dragging down the aggregate, and also this old New York Times Siena poll that oversampled Biden supporters by 8 freaking points. North Carolina starting to look way better for Republicans. I don't think Atlas Intel has been doing very good in North Carolina. These results have been all over the map for North Carolina for them and not in line with other pollsters. I think Trafalgar's probably got it nailed, though. Trump +3. We had Trump +5. We'll see. But like when Marist has a state going Trump +2, I think it's going to be a Trump win. I don't think North Carolina was ever close. Let's look at the chart. Yeah, I mean, this is the period where they were trying to sell that she might have an alternate path to victory if she lost Pennsylvania. I think this was kind of fake, though. And Georgia. Look, Georgia is off the table. And this is before I dump my Trump +6 in here. So yeah, all of the states, let's refresh this. All of the states, except for Michigan, look like pretty safe Trump wins, assuming, again, there's any leftward polling miss on average. And poly markets, I think we're at over a 30-point Trump win right now. I think this is almost the widest it's been. It looks like maybe there's been a little bit of sell-off, maybe some profit taking in the last, just in the last hour or two. So whatever, that's just a little bit of noise. I mean, just look at this inexorable trend. Was this when the Puerto Rican joke dropped? No, I think that was here. This might have been the Nazi thing. Barely a blip. That's because everybody knows who these candidates are. They know who they're voting for. In my opinion, listen, half the country's already voted. They're not changing their minds. And look at this. Donald Trump is closing the gap to win the popular vote. I mean, listen, this should be reversed. The polling, in my opinion, shows that Donald Trump is winning the popular vote, probably by a steady, solid margin. They're leaving money on the table. You could probably make some money on this bet. This is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors. But really, I mean, this is probably going to flip soon. And this is just one more in a string of things that now show Kamala Harris is losing. All of the betting markets, all of the swing states in the betting markets, most of the polling, every single major statistical prediction model like Nate Silver and 538 and Decision Desk HQ What's crazy is with how much objective data showing that Harris is losing still in the news across the mainstream media, what you're going to hear is the race is too close to call. They just can't bring themselves to say that she is losing, and that is absolutely horrible. And they're already starting to cope. And listen, there's always the chance of the steal. We know that more than anybody else. Anybody that has been following us knows that we're the only pollster that cares about this topic and polls on it over and over again. So follow us at Rasmussen_poll on Twitter and also at YouTube, because we do have some new questions that we're going to drop before the election day that I think are very important. But listen, barring that kind of stuff, which just can't be controlled, like Trump has been doing better than he's ever done in the past. It's crazy how much it's taken for us to get to a place where we can talk about a comfortable Trump win. And of course, we were all by ourselves for almost that entire time. So that's a really good reason to follow us. Again, you can also follow me at Twitter at Mark_R_Mitchell. Happy to have you there, and thanks for watching.